Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Marco Podcast,
a show dedicated to the realness of organization and entrepreneurship. This space was created for every woman who needs motivation or inspiration to get organized and to keep going after her dream. I'm your host, Angel J. Sit back and prepare for valuable tips, resources, laughs, and much more. If this is your first time here, welcome, and thanks for joining. If you've been hanging around for a while, welcome back, and I hope you brought a friend. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. Today, I am talking with Celena McBryde, founder of the Introverts Heart. She is a dynamic heart-healing speaker, coach, and author. She leads the Hearties community, a group dedicated to spreading hope, compassion, and love with a deep understanding of life challenges. Celena offers guidance on personal growth and self-discovery through her podcast, Let's Talk About It with Celena. Her work emphasizes authenticity, empowerment, and the rediscovery of joy. Bringing over 3 decades of experience in connecting with diverse individuals, Celena is passionate about inspiring potential in others, especially women, and encouraging everyone to join her in breaking social norms and leading an extraordinary life. Everyone, let's welcome Celena. How are you?
Great. How are you, Angel? Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having... Thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna get it together over here, y'all. So
you are good, girl.
Celena and I met a podcasting group. I was on her podcast back in December 2023. We recorded an episode together, and then I asked her to be on my podcast because we are both introverts and both know what it's like trying to be an introvert and trying to be an entrepreneur. And then not only that, Celena and I, we just really connected even before we chatted on her podcast. We connected, and then we've been chatting a little bit back and forth and everything. And so here we are now chatting. And y'all, I'm just going to go ahead and put this disclaimer out here. I told Celena before we started, I am suffering from a mild concussion. So if I slur my words or if they come out funny, that is what's going on. And y'all know that I believe in being real and authentic. So I'm not going to edit it out, and I'm not going to pause every time I slur something. So this is what you all are getting from me and Celena today, but I promise that it is going to be a fun episode. And so again, welcome, Celena. And is there anything else that you would like to share before we get started?
Thank you for having me. You're doing wonderfully. Don't worry about it. Hey, we are dealing with real life here. We got to push on, and that's part of resilience.
Yes.
I just was speaking to a young group of young ladies this week. Last week. I'll get it together too. I don't have a concussion to blame it on. I do have 50-year-old premenopausal, all that stuff, but that's it.
There we go.
Right. If you are a female woman, you know there are things that we just have to go through and deal with. Y'all understand the pain.
Yes. Amen. Amen to that one. Yes.
But that's part of being resilient, which I was speaking to these young ladies about. And they were like 9 to 13, I think. And, just trying to put into them, you may go through things, we may struggle, but it's how you get back up. And, and I think that's the new message, should be resilience other than strong, because strong implies there's no weakness. Resilience means you kind of go through it and come back the other side. So I like that. So I'm adding that little piece from those girls into my new message to go forth, I think. So I'd add that now.
Okay, no, I like that resilience because that's not something that you hear about a lot. Like you said, you hear people say, oh, you have to be strong, you have to be strong. But again, that implies that being strong, you can't break, and it's so weird because it reminds me of, I don't know if you've seen the movie or heard of the movie Encanto or not. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Okay, such a cute movie. And my favorite character is Louisa on there. And, I like listen to the song Surface Pressure all the time. And she's like, I'm the strong one. And it's like, did anybody ever think that I'm going to break under this pressure? But when you use the word strong, you're not supposed to break. Like the pressure's not supposed to get you. Like you're just supposed to keep going no matter what you're going through. And when you're resilient, that means that, yeah, it happens, but you bounce back from it. So I'm with you on that. I like using resilient instead of strong, and I'm going to try to start incorporating that more
I love
into
it.
Mustangs. Yeah, it sounds so much better. So
It doesn't. It takes the pressure off. You know, that thought of a rubber band expanding and going back. You know, you kind of deal with it, but you'll get your shape back if you don't stretch too far. You know, I kind of like
right.
that. So I like it. Let's go with that, Angel.
Okay,
New movement.
cool. Yes, new movement. We are resilient. We are not strong. We are resilient. Everybody, you heard it here first on the Mod Code podcast.
Exactly.
Celena, resilient.
Resilient. Let's go.
So, Celena, how long have you been an entrepreneur, and how did you get started?
I have been, you know, how most women, I think, go through that stage. If you have any kind of creative urge, I think as you get older, you go through this. Well, maybe I'll start making this and sell it, or maybe do this and sell it. So in a way, I've always kind of been that way because I've always put together events for people or school or something. But for this new adventure that I fully LLC'd and all that stuff to make it serious, right?
Mhm.
This one has been just right about not even a year yet that I actually started this venture. And it's been just so much has happened while nothing has happened, if that makes sense, right?
Yes, makes all the sense in the world. All of it. I'm with you. I got it. I got it.
Right. You feel it, it's moving, it's happening, but you know, for the tangible that, you know, people want to see, well, how much have you made? And whatever, you know, we're not there, but I know that it's there, you know, where the encouragement, you know, because what I want to say is when you're an entrepreneur, and especially when you come up with an idea and you're creating it from scratch. You know, it's different if you buy into a franchise or even if you start your own burger place, you know what that entails for the most part. But when you have an idea of something you want to do, and in my case, being a speaker, to sum it up quickly, maybe to give hope and encouragement and stuff to the world or whoever, when you're creating something out of nothing other than a call from God and you've discovered that's your purpose, you know, it takes a long time to figure out what it's supposed to be and look like. So you have to relieve yourself of some of the pressure that you feel, you know, cause it is going to take time, and what you think that you're going to do, especially when it's just an idea, you know, it's going to change and turn, and why am I doing this part now? You know, so that's where the resiliency will come in.
Right. Right. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, it's going to change the idea that you start out with may not be what you end up with. And even if it is, it may not fully be where you started out at. You may have bits and pieces of it, but more than likely it's not going to be the full thing, because you're going to realize along the way, this isn't working, or this isn't actually what I want to do. Let me tweak this a little bit here. And then it's going to go from there.
Mm-hmm.
So what made you decide, as you said, you kind of like dipped and dabbled a little bit in different things, but then you finally decided to go ahead and get your LLC and go forth that way? What was kind of the switch for you, or the change for you, that was like, this is it. I need to do this now.
Well, for me, going into 2023, I was going to turn 50, and, you know, I had heard God talking to me, you know, all my life, but I was not ready to live that image of the Christian life that people gave me. Like, I knew I wasn't ready to be just Miss Prim and proper and not do anything. And I was like, I don't want to hear it. And so, you know, I've had a great life, but at the same time, I've had a lot of struggles and challenges, right? But so going into 50, you know, that's a time of, you know, at some point, I would hope, it took me up not till almost 50, that we all wake up and be like, you know, things have been good, but they feel like they could be, is this it to life? You know, is this it? And, you know, if you have not tried it that way, like turn into God, turn into Jesus, right? might I suggest you try it for a year and see what happens? Just because what do you have to lose other than,
Right.
life just continuing that way? So that's the thing I said to myself. And I said, so I will listen to you, Lord. And I said, and this will be my year of yes. Because our default in life now is no. Do you want to? No. Do you want? No. And so I was like, I'm going to say yes, as long as it's not crazy. Right. I'm not gonna,
Right. Yeah.
will you help me bury this body? No, I'm not doing that.
No.
But,
Yeah. Not today.
right.
No.
I'm busy. Right.
Right.
So I didn't really say no, but not today. Okay. Not for me.
Yeah. Not for me.
Right. So that was my thing. So I did that. And so an opportunity came up. I was like thinking about it and I was like, I need someone to show me how to be a speaker or whatever. And I stumbled across it. Lord led me to an ad on Instagram that led me to a conference that led me to meet a room full of women that I did not know was out there. I did not know that there was a group of women who were of color and like professional and who actually were like encouraging each other and, not a lot of shade. You're always going to have your little shady few, but not a
Right.
lot.
Okay.
And so I had spent a lot of time isolating as an introvert. And I just kind of was like at the same time, it all kind of came to me. I'm like, I'm even a little bit too isolated for me, an introvert. And so I just felt led to, this is why I went through this. And this is why I went through this because I was lonely or not happy. And so when it all kind of came together for me, I was like, if I can figure this out, then I can go help other people so they don't have to go through what I went through. And so that's what made me, it's because I found to answer your question, I found my purpose, my vocation. It wasn't just me trying to make t-shirts with my cricket and, you know what I mean?
Right.
It was actually my purpose. And it's because I fought my purpose for so long because I knew it was people. But like I always say, people get on my nerves.
Yeah.
So I didn't want it to be people.
Right. Right.
So I had to accept that. And the biggest part of accepting that was accepting me. Right. For a very long time, I didn't like who I saw in the mirror. And I talked to her terribly, probably until last year. I stopped the negative self-talk and it totally changed how I felt about myself.
Okay. I love that for you. I love that. And I also feel like you were like eavesdropping in on my last podcast interview that I had because someone was interviewing me and I literally said pretty much the same thing that you just said about like not listening to your purpose from God and then just making shirts on my Cricut and how nothing was working out for what I wanted it to work out. But when I started being obedient and obeying God and listening to him, like things started working out and going a lot better. So I was like, wait a minute, I just heard that. And it's like, oh,
I know. It's that introvert INFJ brain.
Yes, connecting together. So tell us what it's like, just one, being an introvert, period. And then two, what it's like being an introvert and an entrepreneur.
For me, I am one of those, being an INFJ. We talked about that. I don't know if everybody knows, but for your MBTI, the Myers-Briggs type indicator, the INFJ we're just different and we're just different. And so we can so I can be what I have to be for the situation is what I'm trying to say. So I am an introvert with an extrovert qualities. So if I'm in a situation and there needs to be a leader and no one else will do it, then I'll do it. Right. But if someone else needs to be the leader, and we all know that person that needs to be the leader, if they're there and want to do it and I feel like letting them do it, I'm like, okay, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so I'm a different kind of introvert, but the difference between an introvert and an extrovert is how we recover, really. Like an introvert, we're so much in our heads. And so it takes a lot for us to, usually go and do the extroverted thing with people. And we have a window, and then we get tired and we don't want to do it anymore. We've expended all of our emotional energy at that moment. And so we kind of get tired. So we need to go off, so I can get up for when I have an event or when I have something to do. But then, the next day, I'd like for nobody to speak to me. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. Please. Do not talk to me at all. Like, do not talk to me.
Just leave me alone.
Yes.
So we can, because we work it out in our heads, and that's how we kind of process, and we just need silence because I find that most of us are very auditory sensitive, so like when people just keep talking, it can bother us, you know what I mean? And so that's why I need the quietness. And so that's how we recover. But extroverts can just keep, like my fiance, he can just keep going. My mom, they can just keep going, and they get empowered by another extrovert coming in, and they can go boom together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I'm over here like, please calm down. Please.
Right. And we're stuck in the middle going, where's the exit?
Right. Yes. Yes. Like, please. It's like, please stop talking. Like right now.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So when I'm with either one of them, he's here, so I'll keep it low, y'all. But when I'm with one of them and say like my mom comes over, I'm like, oh, well, good. They can entertain each other for a while and I can slip out.
Yeah. Right.
And that's what happened. But then what's so funny is they both say that the other one talks a lot. I'm like, y'all are hilarious.
It's like both of y'all talk too much. How about let's play the quiet game? We're all going to sit here and not say absolutely anything to each other. And it's perfectly fine. Who can go the longest without saying something? Let's try that out.
Oh my God. Neither one of them can make it a minute. I'm not telling you.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh.
So I take
hilarious.
the skill to answer your other part of that question. I take the skills like from learning how to deal with them to being when I work with extroverts as being an entrepreneur. So, the people skills you got to develop. And that's my encouragement to introverts, right? If you are going to function in the world, you have to put on your extroverted clothes, walk out the door, and function like a real human, speak to people, open your mouth, you know what I mean? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Don't make people drag it out of you because you're making other people, don't make people uncomfortable in your introvertedness. Okay. Okay. It's just, I know they want to have small talk. Okay. And that is our worst nightmare.
It is.
But, just take a breath, answer them, and then retreat as soon as you can. Away from that person. Okay. Just retreat. Okay.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Right. But don't make it weird for the world because, the world is weird, but we got to be able to function in their mess a little bit without getting the Wednesday Addams label. Right.
Right. Yeah. And so it's so funny that you say that because, like I said, people will be like, oh, I don't think you're an introvert. And I've come out of my shell a little bit more with like my son getting older and playing sports and going to school and stuff, because I don't ever want him to be left out because of that introverted, because I'm an introvert. And like you said, getting like the Wednesday Addams look like, okay, well,
right.
Nobody can play with her kid because she doesn't talk to anyone, or, why is she always sitting in the corner? So I do. And that's why people are like, you're an introvert? Like, I don't believe this. Like, you talk to me all the time. And I'm like, because I've gotten to know you, we're in what I deem as like a safe place. We're on like a mutual ground. And so we have something in common that we can talk about right off the bat. We can talk about our kids being in sports together, or like what they're doing developmentally at this age, or, something that your kid does. It's like, oh yeah, my kid does the same thing. So you kind of have that common ground to stand on where it's like teetering the line of small talk, but it's not really small talk. And then from there, you can kind of go and like build more of a relationship with things to talk about. And I remember one time we were somewhere and their mom came and she was just kind of like, I was kind of like sitting off by myself because I didn't really know anybody there. And then she kind of came over, like stood next to me. And then I forgot who introduced themselves to each other first. And so we kind of like chatted for a minute. And she was like, I'm sorry, I'm such an introvert. And I was like, me too. I found my people. Sit down. So like we stuck beside each other the whole time. And so yeah, like you said, you just you gotta get out of your shell, and you have to get out of that, like you have to step out of your comfort zone a little bit, but also still realizing that you do need that quiet space. And that's something that I wish that extroverts would kind of understand about us, is that like we like to have fun, we like to laugh, we like to joke, but we do need that time just to okay, let me get back. Like my social battery is draining. I need a little bit more juice. And it may take us a little bit longer than normal to recover, but once we recover, we're a lot of fun.
Yeah, just give us a minute. But it took us a very long time to learn that lesson in this house, honey. But if you just please. I'm not that woman that's like, leave me alone, but really
yes.
Leave me alone.
Yes, please just give me 5. I remember I actually went the pandemic started and we were all in the house together. I was like, okay. And I think my son was like 4 at that time. And so, we just like sat down and talked to him like in a way that a 4-year-old can understand. It was like, we're all in the house together. Like we're not going to be leaving the house. So we're all going to be in here together, but we understand that, cause my husband's an extrovert. He'll talk to anybody. And so, we're all going to be in the house together, but we may need a break from each other. If we need a break from each other, we're going to say, give me 5. And in that time, you go to your room, go to wherever it is that you feel comfortable at, and you just have a time to yourself for 5 minutes. And at the end of the 5 minutes, if you need more, say, I need another 5. And we'll take it from there. I think I was the only one that ever said, give me 5, give me 10, give me 30, but no, I put it out there for everyone. It's not my fault they didn't take advantage of it. So I have nothing to do with that.
Exactly. But that's the thing. You communicated what you wanted and what you needed. And that's what we have to do. Instead of getting ticked and mad, we have to tell people, because, I'm not gonna lie. Everybody does not go off, understand or process body. Extroverts don't take the time to worry about your body language and your size. Okay. They're going to have to be pretty dramatic for them to get it. Okay. They are not mind readers. Okay. So you're just going to have to tell them, I'm sorry to break everybody's heart. You're going to have to tell them. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And most of the time they are going to be fine. Clueless, but fine.
But
you're just going to have to tell them, this is what I need. Right. I'm not trying to be, but I'm going to need it. And then, so we still have our days, but we got it. It's better.
Yeah.
They have to tell them, because you are speaking a language they don't understand.
Right. Whereas with the introverts, you're like, are they getting tired of me talking? Am I saying too much? Like, do I need to back off a little bit here? Should I leave the conversation? Is it done? You have all of this going on in your head as an introvert. So,
right. And so, and they are not thinking any of that at all.
I was actually having a conversation with like a friend who's an extrovert, and I was like talking about it. She's like, does all of that really go through your head? And I was like, yeah. She's like, nobody is thinking that. I was like,
we are.
She was like, I was like, yeah, I'm thinking, I can't help it. So
no.
Yeah,
no,
you can't help
we're
it.
totally different. We're totally different than them. So I just say for people, 90%, and everybody just throws out percentages. So say I will too. 90%,
Go for it.
90% of problems could be cleared up if people just communicated better.
Yeah.
If people just actually went to the problem, went to the source of the issue, went to whatever, you would actually solve most of the issue. And if you are actually honest with people, if they're sane, they should be able to get what you're saying and not be offended. And if they do get offended, that's on them. But if you're speaking from truth, you don't ever have to worry about what you say to anybody. You don't have to worry about somebody coming back to them. You go to the source, cut out the middleman. You'll save yourself so much problem. So many problems. So many.
Right. I definitely.
And if people don't hear your communication, tell them again and again
until they get it. They're eventually going to listen to you and be like, oh, okay, she's serious about this.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I just read something today that said, if me setting boundaries with you is me caring enough to still want to have you in my life, you know, because if you didn't want to, you just be like, oh, I mean, I am that way as an INFJ. Oh, I don't want you here no more. You don't exist.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But if I'm talking to you about it, then that means I do care. Right.
Right.
And so I think that's a good way to see that too.
Yeah, I agree. I love that. That kind of leads me into my next question. What is it like to be an empath? An empath.
Empath.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. For me, it can be pretty intense because, and it just depends. I don't want to be that person, but it is what it is. My whole life growing up, my mom was a nurse.
Okay.
And growing up, my dad would always say, oh, you need to be a nurse like your mom. And my mom was an ER nurse. And so, you know, I never thought about any other kind of nurse. And I was like, oh my God, there's no way. Because I'm telling you, if I watch ER and they are calling with somebody's arm broken, my arm starts hurting. Like I can't watch it. Like, oh my, I get sympathy pain so bad. Right. So my level of empathy is crazy. Now, for me to make it through this world, I've had to kind of not tone it down, but like, I don't watch the news because, you know, it's just depressing and stuff for me because I'm the type of person, I don't want to talk about a problem. If we're just talking about it, I want to talk about what we're going to do to fix it. So if you're the person that just likes to sit around and talk about problems, I'm not your girl. I want to talk. Well, what are we going to do then?
Right.
You know? Right. And so that's why I don't even get involved in a lot of it, but I just like to, so I don't want, I had to develop a warrior side to me.
Okay.
If that makes sense, to save myself. So at some point, you know, I have that heart where I'm always going to do, always going to do, always going to do. But in the end, if it's like going to be me or that person, it's going to be that person every time. Because I know, you know, you don't just because you're kind, you can't let people take your kindness for weakness. You can't be people's doormat. You know, you have to find the middle ground and put your boundaries up with people. And you'll be surprised when you confront that bully that is pushing you down, whoever it is, family member, friend, whatever. When you tell them enough, they're going to be like, oh, wow, that was in you all that time.
Right.
And they will get in line and you start developing that with people and people just know. She's very sweet, but don't start none, won't be none.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Right. Don't cross her. So yeah, you know, it takes, as I say, it takes one time to put a bully in their place. And after that, they're usually going to leave you alone because like I said, they're like, oh, well, where did all of that come from? Yeah, I didn't know that was in there. And it's like, it was, and you kept poking at it and poking at it. And now here it is, you know? So yeah.
Y'all see The Christmas Story? Y'all saw Ralphie snap?
Right. Exactly. I mean, there's a whole show called Snap. So you know, if that doesn't tell you anything, there, like there is a whole TV show dedicated to people snapping. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. So tell us about your podcast.
Oh, it's so much fun. I have had such a great time recording with so many people. Like Angel has been on there. We had a great conversation.
Yes.
And I have the variety of people. And what's so strange is, you know, for me, it's when I look back, like I said, it's almost been a year. And when I think back to when I went to that conference and I wasn't even sure what I was even trying to do as a speaker and what I was going to talk about, right? And I said, well, INFJs, and I remember this woman going, what is that? People aren't even going to know what you're talking about. And I'm like, yeah, but the people that it's for, it's going to be for, right?
Right.
And so as I say, you go through your changes in a business. So, you get information from people and your stuff starts to change a little bit. And you go back to now it's so funny as I've done this podcast, it circled back to the people that I've met in these podcast groups or met, however it is I've met them, they are INFJs. So it's like I'm finding them. So it's exactly what I thought originally, but it took me a different route to get back to what it is. So they've turned out to be all, but I've talked to a guy about being an introvert and, Black in the workforce and the different things that we've experienced in that, which we share a very similar story. But then, there's another girl that met her husband and like she teaches other women how to do it, but she's an INFJ. And so I've met all these different ones. So it's so fascinating. And so I love that people can see, and they're so varied in different careers, totally different people. I just love, my goal is to show people we are so much more similar than we are different.
Okay.
That is my goal.
That's awesome. I love that. And you touched on it just a little bit at the beginning, but can you tell people a little, and I'm going to link it in the show notes too, in case anyone's interested in taking this, but can you tell people a little bit more about like the INFJ and how you came to find out that you are an INFJ and what that means?
Yeah. So the Myers-Briggs type indicator test, it sorts you into, I say sort, so kind of like Harry Potter. Sorry. But,
that's okay. Love it.
But it sorts you into like your personality types, and you have these 4 different categories, right? And so I'd send them to 16personalities.com. It's a free test. It's about 55 questions or so. And so it just talks about, your different personalities, your traits. And, for example, mine is INFJ. And for a lot of us, we could have been on Earth and kind of felt like we were aliens the whole time because people didn't really think like us and we were just different. So once I found out, and it's called the Advocate is one of the nicknames for it. And so when I found that out, it's like a light bulb went off in my head and I was like, oh, I'm not alone, right? I was like, oh my God. Like, so if I've always felt like, if you ever felt like you were the black sheep in your family or like maybe you were adopted or something, everybody thinks so different than you, you might be an INFJ. You know what I mean? It's just, it really helped me. So I found a woman on YouTube. Her name is Winses and she is an INFJ coach. And I took her course and it really helped me figure out Celena and why my life has been how it is and why people like treat me the way that they do sometimes when I'm really nice, but but it all makes sense. I went, oh, so it's like when you feel so disconnected and I was happy and I've had a blessed life, like I said, but still I felt like, who am I even? And it really helped me really understand who I was, which helps you lead to, especially in my case, accepting who I am, and finally getting to loving who I am. Because the one thing I want to tell people is that things are old adages and stuff like that because they're true. Things withstand the tests of time because they are true or there's truth to them. And so the whole thing about, you can't be truly happy and love anyone else until you love yourself. And that is the bottom line. You love yourself and accept your self, accept God, accept Jesus Christ, and the rest will follow. Okay. The rest will follow. Like I said, I would not wish my life good or, I've had a blessed life, but it's been a lot of struggle where it didn't have to be. It had to be for me to learn the lessons, but it didn't have to be. But like I said, if my journey here was so I could turn back and say to someone, hey, this is why you're unhappy right now. And, this is what we need to address. Look at this part and let's see what we can do, and just try it for a year. Like I heard something say, like, if you're not happy, you can get your misery back.
That's
You
true.
can have your misery back. So try it for a year. Try following God for a year, see what happens. And if you're still miserable, well, then what do you got to lose?
Okay. I like that. I'll write that down. Right, because I like that. Like a lot of times, so I you know how you like watch TV shows and stuff like that, and they'll tell you that like the title of the TV show was said somewhere in the show. And so what they did,
Yeah.
And so when I realized that was happening, I'd always try to like listen for the title of the show. And at first, when I started doing podcasting, I was like, oh, what am I going to call this? And then now, especially when I started having guests, I'll listen for little things that they say and I'll write it down. And then when I go back to edit it, I'll see if it still like resonates with me. And that's what I'll use for the title. So I actually have like
That's
three
cool.
titles. Yeah, I have like 3 title choices for this one. So when I go back to edit it, so that's
okay, good. I'm glad. Yeah, I usually writing down notes, but with you, I was just running my mouth.
Yeah, that's how I am too. Like usually I'm like writing down all these notes and stuff, but yeah, like I said, we're just chatting like 2 little old ladies who've known each other since the beginning of time.
I know. Got that whole old soul energy.
Yes, that's what it is. Nothing wrong with that.
I think it's great.
Yeah, I do too.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
It's what's kept me alive. I know that. The wisdom, then the discernment that the Lord has given me is part of what has saved my life.
Like they say, he looks after babies and fools. And so sometimes you have to admit when, you just have to admit, when you're the fool, but you're like, well, thank you, God, for taking care of me. I'll own up to it on that one. So
right. That's why I tell people too, if you can't be honest with anybody else, you need to learn to be honest with yourself and the Lord.
Right.
Okay? Just you and him have to know. You don't have to be honest with nobody else, but you better learn to be honest with yourself and him. Because he already knows the truth. I was just like,
he already knows. So you only lying to yourself, actually, because he already knows what's going on and what happened. Right. He's just waiting for you to admit it and come to the terms yourself. So
exactly. So hilarious.
Yes. Well, Celena, thank you so much for being on today. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we go?
Well, they can follow me on Instagram at the Introverts Heart. My Hearties group is going to start back up. I hope in February. We meet the first Sunday of the month. And the Hearties is just a place to gather and do what me and Angel just did here now. You just come in, and if you can't talk to anybody in your house or have a laugh with anybody else, you can come with us and just kind of let it all out. So that's what we do there. So you can follow me on Instagram. I'll post about when those start. So I'm most active on Instagram. And then also you can find Let's Talk About It with Celena on all podcast forums.
All right. Awesome. And I will make sure to get your Instagram and your podcast linked on there as well. So Celena, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been awesome as usual chatting with you. And I know that we will be talking again at some point in time in life. So you enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, hon. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Modco Podcast. I hope that you enjoyed this episode and learned something from it. Be sure to share this episode with a friend, family member, colleague, or anyone you think will enjoy it. Make sure you hit the follow or subscribe button. And if you love the podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcasting app. That helps others to find us and gets us listed in other show recommendations. So you all know that I run on coffee, and so does the show. If you'd like to buy us a coffee, you can do so by clicking on the link in the show notes. Thank you so much, and chat soon.